Welcome back to another deep dive. We're going even deeper, like literally with Allan Kardec's The Spirits book. Can you believe he was actually like talking to spirits through mediums to get their take on life, death, you name it?
It's mind-blowing, really, and the section you've been exploring, questions 320 to 329, Kardec tackles a topic we all think about, how we commemorate the dead.
Exactly. He gets into how spirits experience death and, being remembered. And I got to say, some of the things those spirits said were pretty unexpected.
Definitely challenges some assumptions, right?
Yeah.
Like, have you ever wondered if spirits even care if we remember them after they're gone? Like, do they hope we're lighting candles and telling stories?
Oh, totally. I've wondered that.
Yeah.
It feels so natural to honor those we've lost. But is it more for us or for them?
Well, according to the spirits Kardec spoke with, they're very aware of our thoughts and feelings towards them. It brings them happiness and even like consolation, especially if they're still adjusting to the spirit world.
Whoa. So it's not just symbolic for the living. Our thoughts and memories actually reach them and impact their experience in the afterlife.
That's what these spirits are saying. Yeah, it really makes you think about the power of our intentions, doesn't it? But it's not about strict rituals or big displays they emphasize. It's the genuine sentiment that matters.
So if I'm remembering a loved one with, sincere affection, whether I'm at their grave or just thinking about them at home, they can feel that.
It seems that way. Yeah, the spirits Kardec spoke with, they seem less concerned with physical places and more focused on the genuine emotions behind remembering.
That's so interesting. It kind of challenges the idea that we need to visit a grave or have a specific ritual to connect with those who've passed.
Exactly, and it makes you think, what happens to those who are forgotten, the ones with no one left to remember them?
That's a little sad to think about. Are they lost? Alone in the spirit world?
Actually, there's a detail in the spirits book about that the spirits say those who are completely forgotten, with no one left to remember them on earth. They're actually freed from their earthly ties.
So being forgotten isn't a bad thing from the spirit's perspective.
Seems to be a natural part of the process, a way for their earthly chapter to close and a new one to begin.
Wow, that's a totally different way of looking at it. It suggests that our memories, while comforting, might actually be a tether keeping spirits connected to this world.
That's an interesting interpretation, and it fits with what the spirits say about letting go and moving forward.
Okay, so remembering is important. But does the way we remember matter to spirits? Like if someone gets a huge monument built for them, are they impressed by that?
You gotta remember, spirits aren't bound by material stuff anymore, while they might find it kind of amusing. Ultimately, they're touched by genuine acts of love and remembrance more than grand gestures.
So it's not about the size of the headstone or how many people are at the funeral, but the sincerity of the grief and love behind it.
Exactly. A simple act of kindness, a shared memory, a heartfelt prayer. Those are the things that really resonate with spirits, not material tributes.
That makes a lot of sense. It's a good reminder that the most meaningful gestures come from the heart, not the wallet.
Speaking of material possessions, Kardec also asked the spirits about something I bet a lot of people wonder about. Do spirits care about what happens to their belongings after they die?
Oh, that's a great question. Do they hover around their old homes, making sure their favorite chair doesn't get reupholstered?
Haha, it'd be funny if they did, but the reality is a bit more nuanced as always.
Okay, I'm intrigued. Tell me more about what the spirits had to say about earthly possessions.
Well, first remember, attachment to material things is seen as a sign of spiritual impurity. The more a spirit evolves, the less they cling to those things.
So someone who is really attached to their possessions in life might struggle to let go of them in the afterlife.
It's possible, but remember, spirits can still learn and grow after death, so that attachment might fade as they evolve.
That's reassuring. What about people who are very specific about their final resting place? Like wanting to be buried next to a loved one or in a particular spot. Is that just ego, or do spirits actually care about their physical remains?
The spirits Kardec talked to were pretty clear on this. They said being fixated on a location is another example of clinging to earthly concerns.
So even if I put in my will that I want to be buried facing the ocean, my spirit won't be bothered if my family chooses a simple plot in the local cemetery.
That's right. The spirits understand that the reunion of souls goes beyond physical distance. They're not bound by the same limitations we are.
That's a freeing thought. It suggests our connection to loved ones isn't limited by physical boundaries or even death.
Exactly. It reinforces the idea that true connection exists on a deeper level, a spiritual level that transcends the material world.
Okay, so we've talked about remembrance and material possessions, but what about the actual funeral? Do spirits care about how they're remembered or the send-off they get?
Now, this is where things get really interesting because the spirits say it depends on their level of spiritual evolution.
Okay, so someone who is obsessed with status in life might still want a lavish funeral in death.
Possibly. But the more evolved a spirit becomes, the less they care about those earthly vanities they recognize. A fancy ceremony is for the living, not the departed.
So a spirit who's reached a higher level of understanding might not even care if there's a funeral at all.
They might be more focused on the genuine emotions of those they left behind, the love and grief that are being expressed, rather than the outward show.
So what really matters to a spirit isn't the size of the funeral or the cost of the flowers, but the depth of love and the sincerity of the mourning.
That's exactly what these spirits are telling us. It's a powerful message about focusing on what truly matters, the connections we forge and the love we share.
This has been incredibly eye-opening.
It really is, and it leads to another question Kardec asked the spirits, like, do spirits actually attend their own funerals? And if so, what are their impressions?
Oh, that's kind of spooky. Are they like hovering in the corner, judging the eulogy?
Not exactly, haha, but they did say they often attend their own funerals and are very aware of everyone's emotions.
So it's not just about us getting closure. The spirits themselves are participating in that farewell in some way.
Seems like they can witness the outpouring of love and grief, which can be powerful for them.
Makes you wonder if it helps them let go, seeing how much they were loved and how deeply their absence is felt.
It's a nice thought, and it fits with what we've been saying about those genuine emotional connections.
Okay, so funerals are often seen as a way to honor the dead and help the living grieve. But what about the less sentimental stuff like inheritance? Do spirits care about what happens to their worldly possessions?
Kardec actually asked about that, specifically if they attend the meetings of their heirs, and the answer was pretty surprising.
Okay, now I'm really curious. Do they, like, make sure their favorite nephew gets the antique clock?
No, it's not about playing favorites or clinging to material things, which, remember, is contrary to spiritual evolution. The spirit said God lets them see those meetings for a deeper reason.
So it's not about the stuff. What's the real reason they're allowed to be a fly on the wall during inheritance discussions?
It's meant to be a lesson for both the spirit and the heirs. For the spirit, it can be humbling.
How so?
Well, imagine you're a spirit freshly departed, and you're watching your family divide up your stuff. You see who genuinely loved you and who was just putting on a show. You might see greed, pettiness, maybe even relief that you're gone.
Ouch. That's got to be tough, seeing those true colors.
It can be. It forces the spirit to confront the reality of their relationships and the impact they had.
And what about the heirs with the lesson for them?
It's a reminder that their true nature, their motives are never really hidden. The spirits can see right through them.
So it's like divine justice exposing everyone's true character in those moments.
You could say that it's about accountability, both in life and in death. Our actions have consequences, and they don't just disappear when we die.
So even after we're gone, we're still learning, growing, and in a way being held accountable for our choices.
That seems to be the message these spirits are giving us.
It's wild to think Kardec was exploring this back in the 1800s. Talking to spirits was so radical then. And yet here we are still asking the same questions about life, death, the afterlife.
It speaks to how timeless these questions are, and maybe our desire to connect with something beyond this world.
And it makes you wonder if spirits are so sensitive to our thoughts and emotions. Are they bombarded with negativity? The world can be a pretty rough place.
It's a valid point, and Kardec asked them about it. Their response was quite reassuring, actually.
Okay, I'm curious, how do they handle all the darkness and negativity in the world?
They said, while they're aware of our struggles, they don't experience them the same way we do. They have a bigger perspective, a deeper understanding of why suffering exists and what it can teach.
So it's like they see the bigger picture while we're down here, caught up in the day-to-day.
Exactly, and they said our suffering is temporary, a part of our spiritual evolution.
So it's not about avoiding pain, but learning and growing from it, becoming more evolved.
Exactly, and they reminded Kardec that we're not alone in our struggles. They're always there to support us, guide us, offer comfort.
That's comforting, especially when life gets tough, knowing there's spiritual support out there.
It can be. It reminds us we're all connected not just to each other, but to a huge spiritual network beyond our understanding.
This is all so fascinating, but I got to admit, it's a lot to process. There's so much we don't know about the spirit world and how it all works.
That's true, and it's important to be open-minded, but also skeptical. But even without all the answers, exploring these questions can help us live more meaningful lives.
I agree. If even a little of what those spirits told Kardec is true, it changes everything. How we see our relationships, our choices, our understanding of life and death. It all takes on a new meaning.
It does, and it challenges us to live more consciously, knowing our actions have consequences beyond what we can see.
It's like we're all part of this giant tapestry woven together by love, energy, experience.
Beautifully put, and maybe by understanding our place in that tapestry, we can live more meaningful and fulfilling lives.
Yeah, it really is a lot to think about. It makes you wonder, like, how differently would we live our lives if we really got how connected we are to the spirit world?
It's a huge shift in perspective, and it brings up another question. If spirits can be affected by our thoughts and actions, can they influence us too?
Wow, that's so interesting. I always wondered about, spirit communication and if our loved ones can guide or protect us from the other side.
Kardec talks about that in other parts of the spirits book, but
Oh.
in the context of what we've been discussing, the spirits themselves say they can't really interfere directly with our lives.
So they're not like puppet masters making us do things.
No, they respect our free will, but they can influence us through thoughts and suggestions, especially if we're open to it.
So more like a gentle nudge or a whisper of inspiration, not a forceful command.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. It might be like a sudden idea or a feeling of guidance or even a dream that gives you clarity.
I've definitely had moments like that where an idea just pops into my head out of nowhere.
Ha.
Maybe there's more to those moments than we think.
Maybe, and it shows how important it is to cultivate a connection with the spirit world, through prayer, meditation, or just being open to their guidance.
So it's a two-way street. We can impact them, and they can support and guide us in return.
Exactly. It's a beautiful relationship that shows how connected we are, not just to each other, but to this whole spiritual network we can't even fully grasp.
Wow, okay. I think we've given our listeners a lot to think about today. This whole deep dive into the Spirits book has been incredible. Any final thoughts?
If there's one thing I hope people remember, it's that death isn't the end. It's a transition. It's the journey continuing, and the connections we make, the love we share, the impact we have, it all carries on into the world beyond.
That's beautiful. So whether you believe in spirits or you're just curious about the afterlife, I encourage you to check out the Spirits book by Allan Kardec and see what speaks to you. It might change how you see life, death, and everything.
And who knows, you might even get a message from the other side. Just listen with an open heart and an open mind.
That's great advice. Thanks for joining me on this deep dive. Until next time, keep exploring, keep asking questions, and keep those connections strong.